Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Tashana, the hostess with the mostest. So, tonight we're going to be talking about Scandium, right? We are back to the periodic table, right? We've decided to stick to the transition metals right now. If you haven't been listening, then transition metals are basically metals that allow other elements to transition, or they break some chemicals down, or they allow reactions to form new elements, right? Hence the word transition. Okay, it's like a bridge to another reaction. Okay, to another element. Now this was one of those elements. I can't think off the top of my head which one it was, but it was another one that was pretty much like this. Not really a lot of information to go off of. This is one of those rare elements. I believe there's 18 rare minerals. Scandium is number 21, right, on the periodic table. It's SC, as in Saturn and Charlie. I forget what the S is for in the alphabet, but anyway, it's from Scandinavia. It's not considered to be toxic to humans, but it might be carcinogenic. So the word might basically implies that they're still doing research, and in fact that was one of the things that did come up, that it was a heavy topic of research. They use it for a lot of different sets of research, and I think that right there is telling. It is expensive. You can get a pound of it for $122,000. And only traces in the human body is found in food, right? I didn't even get into what food it was found in, because I was just so busy trying to, just look into what else would come up, and literally not much. It's the 31st most abundant element in the Earth's crust. So that right there also tells you that it's rare, right? And it's hard to find in large concentrations. That's another thing that makes it rare. It's reactive to halogens, and it's found in more than 800 elements. Basically, it's alloyed, right? It's combined with other elements, more than 800 elements in the earth, like on the earth. Now, they do have scandium iodine, right? You can look into that. But what I started finding to be interesting is because as I started to research, I realized that a lot of these rare minerals are in places that have a lot of history, rich for a war, rich for like bridges, or hubs, if you will, for different populations. These particular pockets are peculiar as far as history is concerned. And it's even crazier because in America, we don't really have a lot of deposits, like, to dig in and really get to like the core of Earth, as far as like a really large threshold. It's just one in Texas. It's not a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of places out west that, because we have all these different places where regular civilians, can't go. We can't dwell, right? They're not open to the public. They are literally under siege by the government. So why would that be? Why would the government not allow the public to have open access to a lot of these different areas? And they may say the area is contaminated and it's toxic, But I mean, it's no more toxic than a lot of the cars that are driving around pumping, different gases into the air, what's in the food, what's in the water. I'm not even going to get into that, right? But the whole thing is, again, when you start looking at these different minerals, they're rare, but the places where they are found holds a lot of different history as far as different cultures. If you know anything about Scandinavia, I don't really want to get into that. All of those little, little areas, little countries in that area, that border, that's a whole different segment, right? And we've talked about that when we went on to discuss language and DNA, how it just tells a story of how many people have just traveled overall, right? Now, another thing that was interesting is that more of the scandium is found on the moon. It's found in the sun, right? But more of it is on the moon. So this is another element that is highly abundant on the moon. It's found on the moon. So that started getting me to thinking about the entire theory that we have about the placements, what we consider to be space, what's actually up there, if people have actually gone there, right? Just all these different theories, and I'm not going to go into the conspiracy theory thing. I'm just trying to spark the conversation of, again, these minerals are important, and especially, I would say, the transition metals, mainly because they're conduits of heat, right? That's electricity. That's a lot of different things we could do. I'm not saying the other elements aren't important, but I'm saying these are ones we might want to become a little well versed in, because playing with these elements can help us. Now, because this is rare, because we're not in Scandium, in Scandinavia, we might not really get to deal with this, right, on a daily. But who's to say we might not have to move and go to Scandinavia one day. Like, it might behoove you to have a little bit of information on some of these things. It is used for like aerospace, things that are related to aeronautical, business. And there's a lot of other industries that it's used in, but it's so rare, it's so expensive. This, element in particular is not going to be something that people are just dealing with, like a nitrogen or hydrogen or, like a copper or a zinc, even, some other trace elements that may be considered a little more valuable, like a platinum. It's still more rare, okay? So I thought it was interesting, that a lot of the elements that we've been going over, well, so far, right, all of the transition metals and the ones that aren't, there's only two that hasn't been found so far, right, on Earth, in a way where we could actually say we are understanding of what it is and its purposes. And again, this might being carcinogenic and this being used for research purpose is telling that a lot of different experiments may be going on with this element, just to find out what else it can do, what else it may, be able to cause to arise, right? Because that's what this periodic table is all about, playing with the different elements. It's chemistry, right? We want to see what goes with what new can come out of this, right? So now it got me to thinking, like, okay, this is basically time. Like, I believe that a lot of these elements that are abundant are probably a little bit more new to Earth, so that's why they are a little bit more abundant. It's a little bit easier to find them in certain pockets because they just got here, right? Earth is pretty old, and she kind of has chipped away at herself for a while, and then we haven't really done a good job of taking care of, right? So I think that's one of the main things that I realized, especially with an element like this, especially being in a place that is like cold for the most part, right? Scandinavia is not one of those warm climate places. So that's like another thing, like no life really gets to be sustained as far as nature, right? Except for things that can survive in those particular climates. But when it comes to like livestock, plants, whatever it may be, even just human life, right? It's not breeding that tropical, energy. So to me, that is also giving me a hint that a lot of warfare, and I won't even call it warfare, I'll just say changes. Because if you live in a cold climate place, then like you only get a certain time frame or time period to do, you get what I'm saying, certain things. And then when it's cold, everything is shut down. So I would say a lot of different versatility, a lot of different changes, a lot of different new things that may happen, a lot of mishaps. And I'm just pulling this energy right now off of this because, like I said, I didn't get much information. And I really tried to dig to find something, but there was not really much. So I'm just looking at the word and just reading over the notes that I did come up with. This is one of those elements that can probably tell a story if you did some research on it, because it's so rare and because of where it is. Those might be hints for some people. And just to get on, right, because we're pretty much done with that element, I didn't find much. Of course, you can do your own research and you can dig for yourself. Please share with me, or whoever your core audience is. It's fine. But Saturday is canceled and pushed back until next week because of the rain. I'm not sure if any of my listeners would have been present, but yeah, the weather. So we've decided to push it back to the 21st, which is absolutely fine, okay? But before I get out of here, I just want to say this. And I had said this before. If you have been spiritually attacked, you have to realize that energy is yours, and God is going to fight for you. I'm not saying you don't have to put your own work in, but I'm saying that God is going to make things shake on your behalf. Focus on grinding and getting to the meat of what the Creator is putting you here for. Try not to focus so much on the fight itself, right? Your praying, your fasting, your belief, right? Your faith, your ability to understand that God is in control ultimately is what's going to help you. All right? I don't know who needed to hear that, but I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. I don't know if we're going to still do the periodic table tomorrow. God might give us something different, but in the meantime, we will be rocking out with the transition metals. All right? Hope y'all been drinking y'all water, eating y'all fruit and vegetables, and sipping on y'all tea, because why is free. Love y'all. Be safe. Get some good rest. Peace.